Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the nation's Health and Human Services Secretary, testifying under oath and telling Congress and Americans, and I quote him, he said, "I don't think people should be taking medical advice from me." Today's hearings coming just a few days after Kennedy also faced widespread criticism for going swimming with his grandchildren in a Washington, D.C. creek where swimming is not allowed due to high levels of fecal bacteria. Tom Foreman is out front.
The budget I'm presenting today supports these goals and reflects.
The Secretary of Health and Human Services jumped as a protest erupted behind him, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr. squirmed a lot more amid sharp questions from lawmakers up front.
Are you planning to break the law by impounding congressionally appropriated funds?
Is health care a human right?
Way up in the clashes, drastic cuts to health care spending. The Secretary pushed back on claims they will have serious real-world consequences.
It's just not true. We weren't cutting thousands of scientists. We weren't cutting clinical trials.
When challenged about proposed reductions in Medicaid, which serves many low-income and disabled Americans, he recited the administration mantra: it's all about waste, fraud, and abuse.
There are 1 million people who are claiming Medicaid from multiple states. That's illegal. It's theft. These are the only cuts that are being made to Medicaid.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
He even leveled charges at his own National Institutes of Health.
We should have the cure for Alzheimer's today. We don't have it purely because of corruption at NIH.
However, the secretary struggled when confronted over rising measles cases in the U.S., topping 1,000 this year, and his continued reluctance to fully embrace life-saving vaccines.
Are you recommending the measles vaccine or not?
What I've said and what I said...
It doesn't sound like you are, if that's...
Are you going to let me answer? I am not going to just tell people everything is safe and effective if I know that there's issues.
And the head of the department responsible for improving the health of Americans added this stunning statement.
I don't think people should be taking advice, medical advice from me.
Kennedy, who went swimming with his grandkids in a contaminated D.C. creek this past weekend, also took heat over his calls to remove fluoride from public drinking water, although it is known to prevent tooth decay.
But we better put a lot more money into dental education because we're going to need a whole lot more dentists.
At times, it was all too much for Kennedy and the lawmakers, too.
My time has expired.
Oh, well, then so has your legitimacy.
All right. I mean, just to give a sense of how contentious it was, Tom, there are a lot of lawmakers, though Democratic and Republican, who have been saying that cutting thousands of jobs at HHS will endanger the health of Americans and that will cost American lives. Did Kennedy answer those concerns, which are bipartisan?
He tried to, but he answered them badly by basically saying, I'm just going to tell you it's not going to have an effect. We'll keep all the studies going. Everything's going to be fine, but he offered no real details on that front. That's one reason why a lot of these lawmakers really jumped on him and said, yeah, we've seen this act from the Trump administration. You say one thing, and the facts prove otherwise. And in this case, with possibly life or death consequences. Aaron?
Our health lead now takes us to Capitol Hill, where the Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., tried today to reassure lawmakers worried about the Trump administration's huge cuts to agencies like his and the National Institutes of Health.
If you appropriate the money to me, I'm going to spend that money.
We have appropriated, Mr. Secretary.
Then I'm going to spend it.
Then you're going to spend it. You're not going to cut $20 billion from the NIH.
The White House proposal is to do very, very large cuts at NIH.
Well, that is contrary to the money appropriated.
Ranking member.
Yes.
If Congress appropriates me the money, I'm going to spend the money.
Kind of confusing there. CNN's Manu Raj is on Capitol Hill. So is money being spent or is it being cut?
It's being cut, Jake. There's no doubt about it. And that was one of the big points of contention throughout the course of two hearings today on Capitol Hill. In fact, that there have been outside estimates that have said that roughly $1.8 billion in NIH, National Institutes of Health, which is, of course, the largest research agency in the world, that $1.8 billion of that money has not gone out despite congressional appropriation. Remember, the Congress appropriates the money, and the executive branch is supposed to spend the money. And there's been the point of contention. Democrats actually say it's much retired. Bernie Sanders, who put out a report, his staff said $2.7 billion has now been spent by the administration. That figure has been disputed by the administration, but nevertheless, that was an argument all through the course of the day. There were other notable moments too, Jake, in this hearing, including about whether the U.S. is doing enough to combat the measles vaccine. RFK Jr. defended the U.S.'s action, said it was doing better than other countries. That prompted some pushback from Democrats. And there was this one notable moment. Congressman Mark Pocan, a Democrat from Madison, Wisconsin, asked him directly, asked RFK Jr. about if he were to decide now whether to vaccinate his children against the measles vaccine. Kennedy responded and said, quote, probably he would. He went on to say, my opinions about vaccines are irrelevant. And Jake, he also said, I don't think people should be taking medical advice from me. And that prompted some pushback, too, from Democrats who said, well, you're the nation's top public health official. They should take medical advice from you. But as you can see there, Kennedy trying to handle his anti-vaccine views rather delicately of sorts before the House and Senate. Jake.
Okay, Manu Raju, thanks so much. Also, during his testimony today, RFK Jr. called ultra-processed food, quote, a genocide on the American Indian, end quote. That is drastically shortening their lifespan. Kennedy's not alone in worrying about the impact of what we are eating. There's a brand new book exploring our complicated relationship with food. It's called Diet, Drugs, and Dopamine, The New Science of Achieving a Healthy Weight. And the author, physician, and former FDA Commissioner, Dr. David Kessler, joins us now. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. So your book talks about how many of us are addicted to hyper-palatable and ultra-processed foods or ultra-formulated foods. As you describe it, writing, quote, you could not have designed a better weapon to blow up the human body. So why is it so hard, scientifically, medically, for us to avoid hot dogs or chicken nuggets?
We're living in a food circus. The food environment is obesogenic. Wherever you go, your brain is triggered. Those circuits that evolved over millions of years were designed so we would survive. We focused on the most salient stimuli in our environment. Energy-dense, ultra-formulated foods are the most salient stimuli, and they allowed us to survive in the past. But now in an environment of abundance, they're only creating this enormous problem, this toxic fat, this visceral adiposity. Jake, we can make America healthy again. We know what the problem is. The problem is, that's why I wrote this book, is this visceral adiposity. I mean, this metabolically active fat. The problem is not weight, right? It's this visceral adiposity that collects in the abdomen. It gets into your liver. It gets into your pancreas, into your heart.
How do you get rid of it, and how do you stop ingesting it?
I mean, it's excess calories, and the type of foods that we're eating give rise to this visceral adiposity. But we are at the point, and this was what was so important. I've had the privilege of doing tobacco, COVID, and this is as big as tobacco.
Well, obesity in the United States is one of the leading health problems. And
right.
You can't walk around in America without seeing, no wonder we're so unhealthy.
And we now have the tools to reclaim our health, but we have to use those wisely. They include nutrition, they include physical activity, they include behavior change, and they include these new medicines, these new anti-obesity.
Yeah, let's talk about the
GLP-1
GLP-1s, like what's it called again?
The GLP-1s.
Ozempic.